Hey, I wanted to come on here and share my story. Share my binge eating disorder story, and how it took over my life. It started when my son was 2 and I was very overweight. I was about 187 pounds, which is about 85 kgs here in New Zealand. And I was in a very abusive relationship. I had nowhere to turn. I was very lost, very sad, and very isolated. I had decided to put my son into preschool and finally do something for me. Bear in mind, I had no money. I didn't even have enough money to get myself a new pair of shoes back then. I was struggling. So I got a second-hand pair of shoes and I was off. Started losing weight completely on my own. Keep in mind, I couldn't afford a PT, couldn't afford a coach, nothing of the sort. So I just had my knowledge. So I ended up losing about 55 to 60 pounds in the space of a year, which is about 25 to 30 kgs. And from the outside, people were asking, like, how did you do that? And this is where the nightmare, I guess, began. I initially lost all this weight. I looked great, but emotionally I felt like shit. I refused to eat. I lived off fat burners and I checked the scale about 5 to 6 times a day. Initially started off just walking every day, and the walking turned into like 2 walks a day, 3 walks a day, and then it turned into a fat burner every day, turning into 5 times a day of having a fat burner and not eating. I couldn't eat food because if I ate food I felt like I would gain weight. I didn't know who I was anymore. Not long after I started to be like this, my family started to notice that I was losing a lot of weight, and they got involved. And I got made to go to the doctor. My family was very hesitant about that. I was so rigid in my eating that if I even had like a piece of cake, I would not eat it. I would give it to someone else because I couldn't have that because it would make me fat. And then I left my son's dad, and I guess that's when the binging started to come into my life. Went to a therapist and we had a conversation, and she said to me in the first meeting, Colleen, I've dealt with people with severe eating disorders before and wards, and I can tell you now you've got it. And I wasn't going to admit that. So the binging had started and I was uncontrollable. I would go to the supermarkets every single day and buy large quantities of food. It's just anything that I felt like eating, I would go and buy it. Sorry. It was 100% the darkest time in my life. Binging took my life for nearly 5 years. I thought about food constantly. It was always in my mind. I would have voices in my head saying, go get the food from the supermarket. And then I would have to go back down to the supermarket again and replace that food for my son. I even got to the point of being that bad. I put food in my car. I put it in the spare wheel component of my car or in my wardrobe, and I would lock myself in my room and I'd just eat. And yeah, it took from me. After I would binge, I would go and run for an hour, or I would go walk for 3 hours. Like, I was pretty messed up. The night that changed my life, I believe, for the good, I was in bed. And this constant voice in my head was telling me to go into the kitchen and make something. So I did. And I couldn't control what I was eating. I was eating unfazed. I wasn't even thinking when I was eating. And I got to this point where I remember screaming at myself to stop. And I just begged myself to stop. I begged and I begged and I begged, and I ended up throwing the dishes in the sink from a while back, and I just threw it all because the control that it had over me was something I hadn't experienced before. And I remember sliding down the cupboard And I just sat there crying and begging to be free. And I promised myself from that night onwards that I was going to try my hardest to quit and to get better. I had spoken to my therapist and I said to her, I want to try this dietitian that you've told me about. So we did. And it was a lot of hard work. I went from someone that wouldn't even have salt on their food. I couldn't be near ice cream because I'd eat the whole thing. I couldn't be near chocolate because I would eat the whole thing and more. I was living in pure hell. And I emotionally ate. I ate my emotions away because I was that hurt and lost and in such a dark place. Now, that comes a year and a half later. I am no longer a binger. I have done the work, and now I have the privilege of coaching other women. This is what Reshape You is about, to get better themselves. I understand the pain. I understand the constant noise. I understand the constant voice. I get it. So I guess what I'm going to say to you, if you are still listening, is that it does get better. Sometimes it just takes reaching out to someone that gets it. And just keep going. Because one day you can say you made it.